Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Stokastic Fantasy Football Channel. My name is Matt Savoca at Draftaholic, and we are here talking week 2, talking wide receivers. I know it said wide receiver, tight end, but we really hit the tight end position on Tuesday. And here to break down the most voluminous position in terms of actual personnel, it's Nick Lepri. Follow him at Notorious FNTSY. Good morning, man. How are you? Happy Thursday.
I'm doing quite well on this wonderful Thursday morning. I'm excited to talk about football here, and I'm excited for football tonight. Obviously, the Chiefs versus the Chargers. I took a Benadryl last night, so I still feel very tired, but it is what it is. Let's roll.
Hit by the drowsiness of Benadryl. Did you have like an allergic reaction, or you good, or you
I'm
all right?
good now. I'm good now, but last night not so much. But we're here.
Okay.
Let's ride.
I feel like I want story time, but no, we got wide receivers to discuss. What's up to everyone in chat? Go Saints, baby. We already got some good questions coming in. Miso, you're 0-1. We hear you. I'm 0-1 in more than one league right now, and we're trying to get back on track. Thanks for hanging out. Got 35 or so in here. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe as well. You can hit that notification bell as well so you know when we're going live. We're going live 10 a.m. Eastern every Tuesday through Friday, and Nick is here Thursday nights and Sunday mornings, Sunday at noon Eastern, answering all of your start-sit questions, getting you ready for each and every week. Today, we're going tier by tier in the wide receiver position. So at the top, we don't spend quite as much time because you're starting these players. Nick, if you want to get ready with that first tier of player, I do think that it's kind of undeniable at this point. There's two players for me that are the safest wide receivers in the league. You can all probably name them. And then there's a third player who got a 48% target share last week. Didn't necessarily have a gigantic fantasy day, but Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson are in a league of their own, in my opinion. Devontae Adams also deserves that tier 1 ranking for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, Justin Jefferson went absolutely insane. The whole Vikings offense really shit the bed besides Justin Jefferson. It was actually insane that they put up that many points and Irv Smith scores 0. Dalvin Cook doesn't do much, and Adam Thielen doesn't do much. It's actually crazy that the offense just destroyed the Packers like that, and only Justin Jefferson was the only one to come out of that unscathed and actually having a good game.
And it wasn't just a good game.
It was a great game.
It was a great game. On 30 routes run, he had 11 targets, 9 receptions, 184 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 red zone targets. Number 1 performance among wide receivers on the week. Cooper Kupp looks matchup proof as well. And Devontae Adams, if you're going to get half the targets on a team, you're probably going to do all right. I think there is going to be some variance in that Las Vegas target share going forward. We're going to see Hunter Renfrow more involved, Waller getting his as well. But ultimately, Adams is going to be just fine on his new team as well. And they're playing the Cardinals, a likely shootout here, especially if the Cardinals can get any healthier in their receiving core.
Yeah, definitely. The Arizona Cardinals, they looked kind of bad last week, but I expect them to look a lot better going forward. And is Rondale Moore projected to play this week?
I think it's iffy right now. We certainly don't know for sure, but Greg Dortch, I guess, is going to be someone on our waiver wire radar if Rondale Moore is out once again, because I don't think AJ Green is doing it. I'd like to be wrong about that, but ultimately with that game, I still think there's shootout potential with Zach Ertz, with Marquise Hollywood Brown, and with whatever they've got left in the wide receiver 2 and beyond in Arizona. That team is still offensively very strong.
Yeah, do we talk at all about Cooper Kupp? I mean, it's kind of obvious that you have to start him, but that game last week was kind of shocking how bad the Rams were. But this week against Atlanta, I feel as though they're just going to bounce back in a huge way.
Bottom line is Stafford just looks for Kupp immediately, and when things break down in the pocket, he knows where Cooper Kupp is, and he's flinging it his way. There's very few, he almost feels like a running back 1 in terms of safety. You're starting him if you got him. You're feeling good about his potential to repeat as the number 1 overall receiver. Jefferson might have something to say about that. What do you say we head into tier 2 where it starts at least to get a little bit interesting?
Let's do it.
We'll start answering a question or two here while you're changing it over. I saw one already. Juju or Hollywood in the flex I'm going with Juju tonight. High
Oh,
total
okay.
game. Hollywood. Hollywood is going to have his ceiling games, but I think Juju is a safe 10 to 15 points in PPR.
Okay, I like both of them. I would go with Hollywood. I think he just has slightly more upside because he really is the sole target on that offense, the main target. Whereas Juju, there is a chance, right, that MVS goes crazy or that Kelsey does what he did. I think Juju is extremely safe, though. And I guess I was wrong about Juju because it does seem pretty clear right now that he's the number one target. So you're in a good spot with Juju, but I would go with the more upside, in my opinion, of Hollywood.
I think that's fair, actually, that the ceiling is a little bit higher. But you're in a great position if you're looking at starting one of those two. We have them within 3 spots in our current rankings. So we'll get there in a moment. This tier 2 is, for the most part, pretty matchup proof. The one that concerns me right now is CD Lamb. Obvious reasons, right? Cooper Rush's new quarterback. I don't know what the target share is going to look like there. And I saw some social media posts. I don't necessarily agree with them, but essentially the what if CD Lamb isn't great crowd is out and about right now. I think it's way too early to tell, but ultimately it's scary when you have this downgrade of a quarterback and you just don't know if Cooper Rush is going to be able to get him the ball compared to these other players in the top 10.
Yeah, that is definitely a big worry for me. I have CeeDee Lamb ranked definitely outside of the top 10 because of my worries about Cooper Rush. Now, Cooper Rush played up against the Vikings, I believe it was last year, and didn't look awful, but that almost seemed like a flash in the pan, right? They weren't ready for him, and then he just plays well. Whereas I feel like now the Bengals have a week to prepare for him, and CeeDee Lamb, I feel like, is going to struggle in this game. But again, I could be wrong. Maybe what happens is Rush just force feeds the ball to CeeDee Lamb. Not Russ, Cooper Rush
Cooper
just
Rush,
force
yeah.
feeds the ball to CeeDee Lamb.
Cooper Russell Wilson. Yeah, let Rush cook. That's what they
Yes,
always say.
let Rush cook, baby. Let's rush.
Gabe Davis at number 10. I love it. I love that the Stokastic projections are starting to take a stand here. Obviously, I don't know if wide receiver 10 is actually the most likely outcome for Gabe Davis, but it's just talking about his top 5 potential. I think wide receiver 25 to wide receiver 5 is his range of outcomes, which is you're starting him every week territory, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty high on Gabe Davis last week. Obviously, he paid off. You got to ride with him again this week. The Tennessee Titans defense looked pretty decent against the pass last week, but again, that's up against the Giants. The big difference going from the Bills to the Giants, obviously. So I definitely expect Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs to both potentially finish as top 5 wideouts at the end of the week.
And how about Tyreek Hill? We got him 5th. He looks to be a huge part of this Miami offense. I feel like he was targeted like every time I was looking at the screen in that Miami New England game in week 1. How do you feel about him moving forward? And how do you feel about him in this Baltimore matchup? It's not an easy matchup, but one where I still think he'll be heavily involved.
Yeah, the Ravens are dealing with a decent amount of injuries on the defense. The defense is banged up. Tyreek was just getting force fed. It almost seemed as though Tua, like all that talk up of, oh, Tua is the most accurate quarterback in the NFL, that just made Tua throw the ball to Tyreek. And it feels like Tua just has this crazy trust with him. Like that one pass he threw where Tyreek caught the ball one hand, the ball was basically in the DB's hands. And I think Tua literally threw it just because he trusts him. Not because he thought that he was open, because he thinks that Tyreek will just get the ball, which is true. He will. So I like Tyreek a ton this week. I don't expect him to finish as a top 5 receiver like we have him ranked, but I definitely think assuming every single week he could be a top 12 receiver makes perfect sense. So I like Tyreek Hill a ton. And the upside is just crazy because he didn't even score last week. Imagine how many points he would have scored if he scored a touchdown. The answer is 6 more. I can imagine, actually.
Low key, I'm glad you brought up that play because low key, that was my favorite play of week 1, where it was literally an interception in the air. And by the time the 2 players had hit the ground, Tyreek Hill ripped the ball out of his hand. It was awesome.
The craziest part is while they both hit the ground, Tyreek also turned and is running up the field. That's the craziest thing about him. He did like a 360 no scope in the air and then ran up the field. It was beautiful.
Pretty good at football, that guy.
Yeah.
Well, as we move on here, because obviously this is still tier 2, technically, but tier 1 in terms of we're all starting these players if we have them on our fantasy teams. So it's fun to squabble about the differences between Debo and Gabe Davis and CeeDee Lamb, but this is all starter territory. So as we get ready for the next tier where we start to have questions, I think it gets a lot more interesting. We'll answer some questions here. Basin for Biggins, Bassin for Biggins. Who do I start my flex? Damian Harris, Devin Duvernay, Romeo Dobbs, or Wilson? Said Wilson? Sorry, it's a little bit easier when you include the last names, but
I don't know what other Wilson it would be. Oh, Garrett Wilson, maybe.
Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson. I actually like Garrett Wilson. 8 targets on just a 49% snap share, but I think in this situation, I'm going Damian Harris for floor and Duvernay for ceiling. How about you?
Yeah, I feel like Duvernay was a real flash in the pan, right? Mark Andrews didn't have a crazy big game. Rashad Master Bateman, my guy, also didn't have a huge game. So I think that I'd probably go with Damian Harris. Dubes is interesting. I still would not cut him. I want to hold him on my roster because I think he could develop into the number one receiver on Green Bay. But right now, I think your best bet is Harris. And the fact that Ty Montgomery is now gone, that does kind of give Damian Harris at least a little bit more safety every week.
I agree. It's kind of a 2-headed monster now instead of a 3-headed monster, which they definitely would have made it if there was health for Ty Montgomery. So I think Damian Harris is safe. I don't know if 20 to 25 point upside happens very often if you play out the game against Pittsburgh 100 times. But if you're just looking for 10 points, he's definitely the safest there. I saw another one. I need 2 out of Travis Etienne, Robbie Anderson. Oh, what happened? Yeah, you're
no. I moved back because someone in chat said who was in the first tier, so I just moved it back.
Okay, yeah. Oh, look at you being attentive. I need 2 out of Etienne, Robbie Anderson, Darnell Mooney, and Curtis Samuel in half PPR league. Okay, Curtis Samuel, I think you're starting right now. And then probably Etienne is the one you go after that. Mooney third, Anderson fourth. How about you?
Okay, I would go Etienne and Mooney. I know you're definitely worried about Mooney, but I just don't want to take anything from a game where there was 6 inches of rain. So I think Mooney is a clear target hog in Chicago. That's just my takeaway.
I would have said you're crazy literally a week ago if you told me, look, they're getting Dante Pettis and Equanimous St. Brown involved in this offense. I'd be like, okay, like that meme, okay. But I guess that happened in this first rainy game. I think it's very fair to just toss out the stats. Say it's a complete outlier and that Mooney is fine. I'm scared. I think this is at least a yellow flag, if not a red flag. We've obviously got him outside the top 22. We'll see him in a tier later than this. He's still startable. I just think I have him third on this list.
Okay, that's fine.
Tier 3, I think this is really interesting. We're still in on Allen Robinson. We believe, especially in this game against Atlanta, where they're implied for just a ridiculous amount of points. I think it's 28 implied points based on the Vegas totals right now. Adam Thielen, I think the production is going to be spread out from Justin Jefferson to more of the Minnesota offense eventually. And T. Higgins looks like he's progressing towards a start as well. How about the back half here? I think A.J. Brown at 19 is honestly conservative. I think he's like a must-start play for me right now, even in so-so matchups.
Yeah, you definitely want to be playing A.J. Brown. I mean, there was a lot of worries in the fantasy offseason about, what's A.J. Brown going to do? Makes perfect sense what they're doing, right? They gave him the money. They traded for him. They're going to throw him the ball. Who would have known that was going to happen? So A.J. Brown, I definitely would have him ranked higher. Definitely ahead of Allen Robinson. I mean, we definitely have Allen Robinson ranked high. I don't feel comfortable with Allen Robinson, but I do think that Allen Robinson could easily be the number 11 receiver because Stafford just, hey, let me actually throw the ball to Allen Robinson this game. Hey, he's open. Let's give him the ball because if Allen Robinson does, just get targeted up against Atlanta, he could easily score and finish as a top 12 receiver.
He still got that upside that we thought he did a week ago, but he's in that yellow flag territory. If they can't figure out a way to get him the ball, then we have to start thinking in terms of, oh man, has he actually been trending down for a long time and we were fooled by a few good training camp videos? It's happened before. I still don't think that's the most likely outcome here. Mike Williams, you're starting him tonight. DJ Moore, you're starting him this weekend. We talked about Marquise Brown already. Christian Kirk looks like a clear target hog on this Jacksonville offense. It's a pretty bullish ranking for him at 21, but I think he's clear cut high wide receiver 3, if not at this low end wide receiver 2 range where we got him.
Yeah, he's just incredibly safe. They run him out in the slot. He just seems like Trevor Lawrence just wants to throw him the ball. They also have Zay Jones, who Trevor Lawrence seems to like as well. But at the end of the day, Christian Kirk, they gave him a lot of money for a reason, right? They're going to give him the ball.
Mm-hmm. Zay Jones is another one in that offense who might low key have some opportunity and some value going forward. We talked about it just a minute ago, but fire up A-Rob this week. Yeah, we're starting him with relative confidence this week. Come back to us in a week if it's a disaster, because then we have to completely reevaluate. Unfortunately, it's like that, where we're teetering on the edge, but we're still recommending to start them, at least in this positive matchup against the Falcons. Looking at some more questions. I know it's a tight end question. Everett or Freiermuth? I'm still going Freiermuth with the way that the Steelers offense is clearly targeting the tight end position. But if you wanted to go Everett for touchdown upside, not crazy.
Yeah, I would go Everett. I think that Everett also might get a kind of bump up in receptions and targets because of the fact that Keenan Allen's out. Now, I understand Allen was out last week for a lot of the game, but I think maybe the game plan might be more to give Everett the ball. Maybe I could be wrong, but this game's going to have a lot of points. And we do know, since we play DFS, that tight ends love showdown. So big fan of Everett this week.
I agree with Joshua here as I put his chat up here. Everett, if you want the upside. Freiermuth, if you want the floor. Moving with the Mortons, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Cortland Sutton as wide receiver 1 and 2. Nice. Who should I start in the flex? DJ Moore, who we've got at wide receiver 16, or Josh Jacobs, another floor player rather than a ceiling player? How's your feeling on that?
Yeah, I'm going DJ Moore. I think last week was just a bad look for DJ Moore. I don't think that's what we're normally going to see out of Moore. I think Baker Mayfield kind of the butterflies got to him, you might want to say, right? Where the game became too big. He's playing the Browns, and he just looked like shit. He looked terrible. I think this week he plays significantly better. So I would go ahead and tell you that I would start DJ Moore. Sure, Josh Jacobs might score you 8-9 points every single week and could score 15-16 points if he finds the end zone. But I think DJ Moore's upside is significantly higher, and I feel like on most weeks he's also just as safe as Jacobs, if not more safe.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I actually think counterintuitively that Josh Jacobs is one of those players, if you're doing one of these mid-season best ball tournaments, is a really sneaky good pick. Because people think of him on a week-to-week basis as a floor player because of his opportunity. But if you think of the fact that the way he gets utilized, if the Vegas Raiders offense is better from a touchdown upside standpoint, he could be a player that not only scores multiple touchdowns, but takes away multiple touchdowns from these high round picks like Devontae Adams and Darren Waller. And one of the reasons I'm talking about that is because our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, just launched the Best Ball Resurrection Tournament. You know, in the style of Halloween, they've got like a little hand coming out of the ground. And it's week 6 to week 17. So Best Ball season is absolutely not over on Underdog Fantasy. And I think it's some really cool strategy. We're going to have some more strategy stuff on the site available too. And I do think that there's some clear values we can get for players who are kind of forgotten about, especially in the fantasy football community. We got a promo code over there to check out. Stokastic. Stokastic gets you up to a $100 first match deposit bonus. Get into the action over there. And I do think it might be a little softer in terms of play than the summer because a lot of people are focused elsewhere or in the DFS game. Underdog Fantasy, an awesome place to play. Anything else you want to highlight here in this tier 3? I think we're still in the you're starting them range. I think Juju is a must start tonight in this high total game against the Chargers, even with JC Jackson possible to play.
Yeah, no, I definitely like Juju Smith-Schuster. I've gotten a decent amount of questions in the comment section about Juju, and a majority of the time I tell people to start him. It seems like, how many targets do you have in the first half? He had like 8 targets in the first half of that game. It was crazy. So I definitely want Juju.
And the second half of that game is kind of an outlier for the Chiefs because they were ahead by so much. You know,
yeah.
Before you run ahead and start Isaiah Pacheco, remember that he was only getting touches once it was 37-7. I digress. Someone asked, why wasn't Diggs in tier 1? I'm looking for that. Sorry, I can't. Oh, here we go. Why was Diggs not a tier 1 this week? Okay, for me, this is because of the talent of Gabriel Davis. It's kind of the same thing as Jamar Chase right now. If T. Higgins is healthy, the odds that he is the target leader on this offense is far from zero. If Gabriel Davis is healthy, the odds that he is the fantasy point production leader on this team is far from zero. Stephon Diggs is an amazing, amazing player,
Yeah.
but the variance is high enough that I want to put him just in that tier below. As we mentioned before, Blair, that's still a you're starting them every week kind of tier. So it's really just nitpicking. But if you're asking me the reasoning behind it, that's why for me.
Yeah, and again, look, like tier 1 has 3 guys in it. So it's not like it's a it's like a hard thing to get to. Like a guy like Cooper Kupp, Adams, Jefferson. Tier number 2, you're definitely excited if you have players in there. So I think Stephon Diggs is perfectly fine, kind of like what you explained. And it's really just because the fact that in any given game, Gabe Davis could just out target him and outscore him. Not because he's necessarily the better player, but because, the defense has to focus in on Stephon Diggs, and then you get absolutely plowed in the back by Gabe Davis.
And then compare that to what are the chances in terms of percentages that Cooper Kupp is not the most productive receiver in the Rams offense? It's, as we're seeing, it's like closer and closer to zero than we even realized. It's still really interesting tier 3. I think we can move on to tier 4. Also want to say we appreciate chats like this all the time. Adamson, just wanted to show my love to you guys and the main man himself, Nick. You are, sir. You are the main man. Love from England. What's up, man? From over the pond. Thanks for hanging out. Not this morning for you, this afternoon. Really glad you're joining us. Really glad you're enjoying this stuff, and really glad that people enjoy you so much more than me. It certainly doesn't hurt my ego whatsoever. Okay, here. So we got a little bit more on tier 3, part 2. So this might answer some questions for people. Did they answer why Amari Cooper wasn't practicing yesterday?
I did not see anything on why he wasn't practicing. Again, there's sometimes they give veteran days to these guys, like Teron Armstead from the Dolphins. People are like panicking on Dolphins Twitter. Oh shit, what happened to Armstead? It was a veteran day off. And I think another player in the Dolphins got that. So it's possible that Amari Cooper gets that veteran day off.
Okay, that's what we're hoping, right? Because I didn't think they had any.
I didn't see anything
injury. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's what I like to see. And Michael Thomas, man, you were banging the drum for him all off season. In case you weren't with us in May or June, because you're not a degenerate like us, how dare you? Nicky Football over here, the one and only Notorious Fantasy, had Michael Thomas in his top 10. What does he do first week out? 2 tutties. Pretty good. Wide receiver 25. I mean, if you have 3 absolute stud wide receivers and your league only starts 3, that's the only reason you're not starting Michael Thomas right now. Even against Tampa Bay, tough matchup. I think he's kind of all systems go.
Yeah, against Tampa Bay, he's must start category. Him and Landry seem like the guys on that team you want to start every week. I think Olave is better than Landry as a player, but I just don't think that he just commands that same crazy target share. And look, I said this last week, I'm pretty sure. I said, look, Michael Thomas is either going to score 5 points or 25 points. Seems like, how many points did he score? Probably close to 25.
He probably scored right at 25. I don't have it right in front of me, but 2 touchdowns. I think, yeah, he had 90 air yards, 57 yards receiving on 8 targets, 22.7 PPR fantasy points, wide receiver 8 on the week. Pretty much Michael Thomas stuff, normal Michael Thomas stuff, just like you said.
Yeah, I mean, look, if he was healthy, but there was worries about his health too, which kind of scared me off of him last week. They're talking about, oh, is he good to go? Is he not good to go? That worried me. But now that he's healthy, you just have to play him. So I completely agree with that. And then the other guy I want to talk about here is Renfrow. Renfrow got absolutely locked out last week. Renfrow didn't really do anything in that game. And Adams obviously ate. It was eerily similar to Justin Jefferson, where Jefferson goes crazy, Adams goes crazy, but Renfrow is taking a nap. I think Renfrow will bounce back this week. I like their matchup again here up against Arizona. This should be a higher scoring game. So I'm all in on Renfrow this week. And it's only a yellow flag, right? Like you say, if he doesn't do good again, then maybe it's time to panic. Like, oh shit, maybe Derek Carr, that shower connection he just loves Devontae Adams and Renfro's fucked. But I don't think that's the case yet.
There will be games where he gets iced out and
Yeah.
Devontae Adams gets a 48% target share because that's what players like Devontae Adams get. I think it's safe to say we can go to tier 4 here where the questions get tougher. Speaking of questions, Joshua asks, start one in a PPR league, CeeDee Lamb, Cortland Sutton, James Robinson. For me, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think you can consider leaving CeeDee Lamb on the bench. I don't think the projections will say that. I think the projections
Agreed.
will say leave James Robinson on the bench.
Yeah, well, you can only start one, so I'm going Sutton.
If you're starting one, oh my gosh, I thought it said bench one because you have a good team. Sutton is the one for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I just look. I know you're more in on James Robinson. I was a big James Robinson the offseason guy. He's on every one of my teams. He's chilling on the bench right now, but I don't think I want to play him this week. Like, I'm not forcing myself into it when I think Sutton is much better than what he got last week. Like, do you really think that the fucking Broncos going to throw the ball to the tight end that many times again? I don't think so. They're not going to throw it to some random guy you've never heard of a million times. I mean, Russell Wilson in the past never threw it at the tight end, so it made no sense. So I think Cortland Sutton is in for a big season and a big game this week.
They looked both Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. They looked electric with the ball in their hands once they got the ball in their hands, which wasn't enough on Monday night. I'm still starting Sutton with confidence. Do you think OJ Howard was a flash in the pan? Unfortunately, I do. I think he'll be a red zone weapon, but he still had a low snap share and target share. He just happened to find the end zone. He'll be a red zone weapon for them, which is kind of exciting for a player who was passed up on by his former team and had trouble finding a home, obviously, with the Buffalo Bills. Let's get to this tier 4 because I realize we only have about 15 minutes left here. Thanks for hanging out again, guys. Allen Lazard looks like he'll be back with the Green Bay Packers. And then former Green Bay Packer Marcus Valdes-Scantling is someone we're still quite high on going into week 2. Some of these players in this tier underperform significantly. Some of them really overperform. And some of them, I'm just kind of shocked that the Stokastic projections, the same one that fuel our DFS projections that have won people literally millions of dollars, have Darnell Mooney at 38 and Waddle at 39.
That's the same projections that won me $200 last week. I have Jalen Waddle at wide receiver 39. I think that's extremely low. I want Jalen Waddle significantly higher than this. I know that he wasn't really targeted that much. At the beginning of the game, it was like, what are they doing? Like, why does Jalen Waddle not have any targets? I think he went 4 for 4 like he was at Wendy's. And he scored a touchdown on that 4th and 7, which was excellent to see, obviously. But
beautiful play.
Maybe those worries about Tyreek taking away a crazy amount of targets are true. But I think this week up against Baltimore, it's not going to be what happened against New England. It's not going to be we're just bitching these guys. Let's just run the ball. Let's just not even try to do anything. It seems like the game plan was just don't turn the ball over and we're going to win because the Patriots can't do anything. I think this week against Baltimore, when you're going up against Lamar Jackson, they're going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to actually do something. They didn't even have to do anything against the Patriots. They could have just scored one touchdown and just kneeled the ball the whole game because Mac Jones couldn't do anything because that guy sucks. So Jalen Waddle, wide receiver 39, I have him inside the top 24.
Not biased at all, you Miami Dolphins fan, but I completely agree. The game script against the Patriots is very different than it would be in a game against the succeeding Baltimore Ravens, especially a team that might get J.K. Dobbins back on the field. If they're being productive, Baltimore is, it's going to force Miami into a more pass-heavy game script to keep pace. And Jalen Waddle certainly has the ceiling. That's why rankings can sometimes be deceiving, right? Because we've talked about range of outcomes before on these shows. Obviously, Waddle could be the wide receiver 40, but when he goes off, he could have a Gabe Davis style top 10 week. It still could happen against a Baltimore defense that still isn't 100% in the secondary. Yeah, it's not out of the question. I still like starting him, but I get why players like Joshua Palmer, who you might have gotten off waivers this week, might be someone you consider in what looks like a very, very offense-heavy game environment against the Chiefs. That's a tough one. Would you do Palmer or Waddle?
Definitely Waddle. I mean,
okay.
Why was Palmer not involved last week? Why is this magical fellow Carter catching the ball? I've never even heard of him, and he's catching the ball. Joshua Palmer didn't really do much, so obviously I'm worried about Joshua Palmer. If there was ever a game for him to go off, it's this game, though, without Keenan Allen. I'm just saying that my confidence is not very high, whereas if you asked me that 2 weeks ago, Nick, Keenan Allen's out, do you play Joshua Palmer? The answer is of course.
Yeah. Fair. Same with Russell Gage too. Like a strong offense, but an obvious room for opportunity. But do we know that the opportunity is going there? The projections say when you run the slate a million times, 100 times, it happens quite a bit. But we don't really know that for this one actual time. This is an interesting question. Who do we drop first? Kadarius Toney or Romeo Dobbs? Non PPR. So it's touchdown. I think I'm still dropping Dobbs because Tony's at least done it.
Yeah, so am I. But those rumors about Tony are really bad. Like that he doesn't even know the playbook. That's not why he's not out there. Like you saw the game when he got that one catch, he just goes crazy. He's insane. But the problem is they just weren't playing him. I don't know if Dayball's trying to like set some message or something, but look, if Tony's not out there, how can you even play him? But right now, I would drop Dubes because I think eventually Tony will figure it out, and I think he's really good.
He looks great with the ball in his hands. He might also be difficult to manage, if you will. Juju or Michael Thomas? I'm going Michael Thomas. I'm going Michael Thomas.
Yeah, so this is one of those where it's safety versus risk again, where Juju is just so incredibly safe. He's like wrapping a bunch of Trojans around your roster. And then if you go with Michael Thomas, he's incredibly risky. He's the raw dog kind of guy. So I like Michael Thomas. I think I would go with Michael Thomas because I always lean with the upside take. So I'm going to go Michael Thomas.
Okay, I kind of agree with that. Pick 3, Gabe Davis, Darrell Henderson, CeeDee Lamb, Antonio Gibson. Assuming half PPR, Gabe Davis, Darrell, and Gibson for me.
Yeah, half PPR or full PPR. It's Gabe Davis, Henderson, and Gibson too. Look, again, I don't think CeeDee Lamb is dead. I think you should still hold him. I don't think you should trade him for like a half-eaten bag of potato chips. But right now, Gabe Davis, Darrell Henderson, and Gibson seem like the clear answers. And again, I also don't think Cam Akers is someone you should trade a bag of potato chips away for because, look, there is a chance that Cam Akers just shows up and is legitimately good. But right now, it's Darrell Henderson time.
Start 2, Gabe Davis, yes. Juju or Mike Evans is really the question here. I think you got to start Evans. I know the Lattimore narrative. Every time they face New Orleans, I'm a little bit more scared of the Tampa Bay offense than I typically am, but I still have to go for it. That's kind of how I feel.
I always tell people to start Evans against Lattimore, and it's bit me in the ass so many times. For years, I've told people to do this. So we're going Juju this time. And now that I'm off of him, now that I'm going to tell everyone, don't play Evans in this situation. I think you should still play Evans in a lot of situations, just not in this one. And now Evans is going to score like 3 touchdowns. I can already see it coming.
Yeah, of course. Of course he is. I also think we have, 40 through 48 as well. So I think we should show that on the screen as we answer some questions here. These are players who, because of their situation, they fall in the rankings, but there's a bunch of them, especially in these top 47 or so, where you know the ceiling's a lot higher. Deontay Johnson easily could be top 20. Julio Jones, a lot of people are on him this week. Even DK Metcalf looked to be heavily targeted in that Seattle offense that looked competent, question mark? I don't know. There's definitely some upside here. This is a spot where you probably have 3 better receivers, but all of these are kind of considered the same in our projections right now. Very, very similar scoring projections.
Yeah, DPJ is in a really interesting spot. He was getting peppered by Jacoby Brissett, but let's be honest, don't want to take everything from week 1, right? Amari Cooper is significantly better than Donovan Peoples-Jones, and the fact is that we saw just Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt run train in that game, so I wouldn't be super confident with DPJ. Deontay Johnson, like you mentioned, he is probably my favorite receiver in this range. I would have him ranked higher. I really think that Deontay Johnson is just a target hog in this offense. Week 1, Mitch Trubisky looked awful. I don't think he's going to look that bad going forward. And the Patriots defense was absolute dog shit. It was not the Patriots defense that you're used to. Now, they are good at getting pressure. So Mitch Trubisky is going to have men in his face trying to tackle him. But I don't think that it's going to be as big of an issue as it would be if the defense was like a couple years ago where Deontay Johnson could get locked down. And then you mentioned Metcalf. I told everyone to sit Metcalf last week. That was very correct. But he was more targeted than I thought. It seems like Lockett is doing his John Cena impression because you can't see him. The guy's invisible. They don't throw him the ball. So I like not Tyler Lockett. I do like DK Metcalf more than Lockett. And
I do too.
if this was my rankings, I would have Metcalf significantly higher than Lockett. I am out on Lockett. I was already out on him in the offseason, so I'm just out on him still. And then Elijah Moore, I thought he was going to get more targets. Joe Flacco looks atrocious. Joe Flacco is awful.
He
I don't
still
know
threw for
why he's
300
playing.
yards though. Like I realized it was just like full like Ryan Fitzpatrick mop up DGAF situation, but 300 yards, he threw 50 times. There's going to be some fantasy goodness. It won't be pretty. It's like the Jay
He's gonna need
Cutler days.
he's gonna need Tommy Johns at the end of the season if he keeps throwing 50 times a game. Jeez. But Elijah Moore, he's still okay. I mean, he's one of my favorite guys in this list. And then Pickens shows up and catches 3 yards. Welcome to the NFL, buddy.
Yeah, there will be better days ahead for George Pickens, but Claypool looked pretty good in that first matchup, compared to the offense as a whole, which did not look pretty good. Guys, and one of the things that we always stress is talking about how these players could perform differently if you're considering them in fantasy football, where you need to have a certain amount of floor and consistency, or if you're talking about DFS, where we're shooting for a first place in a tournament game and we need to get the possibility of 20, 25, 30 fantasy points. The game is a little bit different. That's obvious. And one of the things we've really done over at Stokastic.com is taken a step back and helped people this year who are just dipping their toes in the water in the DFS game. The same care that we take for our premium DFS subscribers, the people who are playing 150 lineups a night in tournament after tournament, we're bringing that to people playing 5, maybe even less, maybe just a little more, 20 lineups a night, or even just once per week. We have a new lineup generator tool, a new player comparison tool, and those things for a limited time are absolutely free, that player comparison tool. And for new subscribers, people who have not signed up for Stokastic before, we have a 3-day free trial where the entire site is available to you, every single premium tool available as well. And if you want to learn how we're using those tools and interpreting those stats, head over to the Stokastic DFS channel, our big brother channel, if you will. We have the matchup show at 11 a.m. Eastern, live with yours truly and Dave Laffy, where we go game by game, breaking down every single fantasy relevant player in the DFS slate. We'll put the link for that matchup show in the description, and we'll put it into the chat right now as well. It would be awesome if you guys came and hang out with us at 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's just 20 minutes from now. Until then, we got 5 minutes left. Let's answer some questions here. I'm just trying to scroll through. If Robbie Anderson is available, should I drop a tight end for him if he's pretty much going to be the wide receiver 2 rest of season? What
I
tight
would
end
drop. Yeah, it depends on the tight end. I'm not someone who holds 2 tight ends unless you're in a deep league. Like in a 14-team league, I'm fine having 2 tight ends or 2 quarterbacks, but in like an over 10 or 12, I don't want 2 tight ends. So I would pick up Robbie Anderson. And then something I just want to talk about real quick. I've seen a lot of questions about this in chat and in the comment section. Don't pick up Taysom Hill and play him. I know this might seem obvious, but Taysom Hill is not going to be seeing that crazy upside every single game. He's a flash in the pan. He could definitely do it again, but I would not start him every week. That just seems crazy.
I think that's fair. Let's talk about tonight real quick. Daniel asks, skeptical on Joshua Palmer because Carter is in the slot. I want to be honest with you. Our Stokastic projections are really, really freaking good at this. And they've helped a lot of people win a lot of money. But that's how I'm interpreting it as well tonight, Daniel. That's why interpreting these stats are really important, and seeing things your way is also important. That's how we can win a lot of money. But I think there is a little skepticism. Joshua Palmer has a larger range of outcomes, even though he has a high ranking, than his ranking itself might indicate. Want to get to as many questions as I can. Thanks for hanging out again in the chat. Who should I start? Need 3. Kirk, Waddle, Sutton, Michael Thomas.
I would go Kirk, Sutton, Michael Thomas. Kirk and Waddle will flip-flop in my head. You asked me this question tonight or on Sunday, I might tell you Waddle over Kirk. They're very close for me, but Kirk, Sutton, and Michael Thomas. Sutton and Michael Thomas is our locks, in my opinion, as 2.
I actually fully agree. Nothing to add. Devonta Smith or Mooney? Oh, I'm going Smith. See, I'm out on Mooney. I really am.
Mooney by far for me.
Full PPR, Evans or Marquise Brown. Lattimore effect. Marquise
Hollywood.
Brown. Yeah. Wow. I can't believe it. but I think that's right. I think I agree with you. Need my morning coffee. This is not coffee number one for me. I promise you that. Just trying to get
So,
through. Keep or trade DJ Moore. We're holding DJ Moore right now. I don't unless you're getting like a clear number one option, like a Tyreek Hill type player or above. Uh, I don't think you're trading DJ Moore, correct?
yeah, I'm not moving DJ Moore. Right now he's at an all-time low, right? There's much higher highs to have for DJ Moore. And I just wanted to mention someone said rip Bobby Trees in the chat. Yeah. Press F to pay respects to Bobby Trees.
I'm gonna guess Allen Robinson or Debo Samuel. Guys, this one, first names with Samuel is definitely much appreciated these days.
Debo.
We're going Debo Samuel. So,
But I think it's Robinson or Curtis Samuel because I think
if
Debo is kind of a lock. So I would say Robinson over Curtis Samuel.
me too. Me too. A Rob, Julio, Kareem Hunt, Daryl Henderson need two in a full PPR. Henderson and Allen Robinson for me. Julio is Hunt is third, Julio's fourth. But those you just need two.
Yeah, I would go with Hunt and Henderson for me. I like A-Rob this week, but I think Hunt and Henderson are significantly safer.
Henderson and Hunt sounds like a law firm or something. Benjamin, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Benjamin,
Thanks for hanging out.
Go do this and see if you can get 90 people to sit here and watch.
Not a wide receiver question, but full PPR league, should I trade Patterson and Schultz for Andrews? Other RBs are CMC, Chubb, and Henderson. So you are pretty good. This is fair value, but I think in most leagues, running back ones or players performing like running back ones can get you a king's ransom. It's close. If you felt like you wanted Mark Andrews, I think you could do it, but I'm holding the Patterson Schultz side.
Yeah, I would hold as well because I think you can almost get more. Now, I understand that Schultz didn't play good, and now Schultz doesn't have Dak. So maybe you want to do this, but I'd personally hold unless you really, like you said, unless you really feel like you need Andrews. I think Patterson is not fool's gold, in my opinion. I think that he's going to keep playing well.
I think the fact that there's a Russian quarterback is opening up lanes in that Atlanta offensive line, which isn't necessarily the best in the league, but good enough. Last question here. Trade in a Superflex league, PPR, 14 team. Team A, Zach and CMC, or B, Wentz, Pickett, Judy, and Ramondre Stevenson. This is like CMC, and hopefully Dak is himself when he comes back. Pickett is kind of irrelevant. It's like Wentz, Judy, and Stevenson, and a little bit of upside for CNC. I think I'm actually going with the CMC side.
Yeah, I would go with the CMC side as well. Now, again, we're assuming Dak comes back soon, but I would go with the Dak side. Again, like this is like trading, like I just can't do that. I can't ever make a trade like that because again, I don't think Pickett's gonna be very useful. And Judy and Stevenson's a huge downgrade from CMC. And that's just kind of how I feel.
Look, Judy is a great player, and I want to start him on most fantasy leagues most weeks. But Stevenson, I can probably find replacement value. Wentz, I can probably find replacement value, and I'd rather have CMC than Judy with the upside of Dak Prescott. Hey, Blair, I want to answer your question here, and I also want to thank you for your super chat. $20 means a whole lot, man. I really appreciate you. Guys, appreciate you all for hanging out. We're talking wide receivers. Tomorrow we're going to be here at 10 a.m. Eastern, answering all your questions once again. Cooks, Kirk, or Brown? I can't. Noah Brown, I assume. I'm going with
Hollywood
Christian
Brown.
Kirk or Hollywood Brown. Then I'm going with Marquise Brown first.
Okay, I'm assuming that's Hollywood Brown.
Yeah,
right?
You're right. Probably
Okay,
not.
so Blair, thank you again for the donation. I really appreciate it. I would go with Hollywood Brown as well. I think Brandon Cooks isn't for a good spot. He's relatively safe, as is Christian Kirk, but I don't think either of those guys have the upside that Hollywood Brown has in this game. Again, I understand that Kyler and that whole team did awful. Like they really, and yeah, it is Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, he got it. Yeah,
They got really like Hollywood Brown got kind of lucky at the end of that game, right? We were in for a very bad game out of Hollywood Brown, but I think they bounced back this week. I'm pretty confident in that. And I think Hollywood Brown's ceiling, at least while DeAndre Hopkins is gone and Rondell Moore's banged up, they have fucking ancient fossil AJ Green playing for him. I think Brown has the upside to be the number one receiver. So, and I just don't see that out of Christian Kirk or Brandon Cooks. So I'm going Brown significantly higher than Kirk and Cooks. But I do like Christian Kirk and Cooks this week. I think they're safe, but I just don't think they have the upside Brown does.
I agree. And I like them going forward, but I think Marquise Brown is the pick. All right, guys, that is going to do it for our wide receiver tiers discussion. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, help us with those YouTube algorithms, and go ahead and follow this guy, Nicky Football, at Notorious FNTSY. His name's Nick Lepri, bringing all the good analysis. My name is Matt Savoca. You can follow me at Draftaholic as well. And as I mentioned previously, we have got the DFS matchups show on our Big Brother channel, the DFS, the Stokastic DFS channel. Oh, we got to mention, yes, tell the people when you're going live tonight, and then I'll pitch my thing.
Yeah, no, people were just asking in the chat, so I threw it up on screen while you're talking. I'll be live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, and then we'll be live again tomorrow on Friday, same time as this, 10 a.m., answering questions as well. And then I'll be live again on Sunday. The time I don't know because I feel like I'd streamed for 2 hours. That might be incorrect though. But I started at 11:30 a.m. Something like that though.
I think it's 11:30 or noon. We'll definitely tell you on
all
the socials and hit that notification bell as well so you know when Nick does go live. I'm going to be over at the Stokastic DFS channel in just a few moments on the Marathon Matchups show, every single game on the main slate. Once again, throwing that link into chat. Would love to see you guys over there and subscribing to our Stokastic DFS channel. Thanks so much for hanging out. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern for Nick Lepri. My name is Matt Savoca from Stokastic. You guys, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys later.